Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to talk about the Zana mods and a couple of other pieces of news that for the Harvest League that were revealed today. I'm not going to go into the Balance Manifesto yet, that'll be its own video. That was also today, and it's probably the biggest piece of news. So we have the Zana mods, and just quickly, there's a couple of other little snippets that there's private leagues are now available for the Harvest League. If you're thinking of running one, which I'm not, then you'll be able to set it up now. Secondly, there's this quality of life change where remove-only tabs can be bulk hidden. This is going to be an absolute godsend if you are a standard player, and for the rest of us, it's going to mean basically nothing. However, standard players are going to be so happy for this that I'm glad that it was made. Now, next up we have the Zana mods. So Zana mods are a way that you can spend additional currency. They're always denominated in Chaos Orbs, which to be honest is a tradition that I wish they would change. I think it would be great to have some of these cost different currency orbs like Regal Orbs, but that's not the case. And what they do is they add additional sources of monsters or other conditions onto a map. This is a final step that's added. So you prepare your map, you roll it, maybe you decide to chisel it, maybe you don't, maybe you decide to elk it and maybe Val it as well. You get a map that you're happy with running, and then you stick it in the map device, and additionally you can choose one of these options. This decision is made at the same time that you commit to whether or not you're using a master mission, and at the same time as whether you commit to using, when you commit to using scarabs, if you're using scarabs on that map, and sacrifice fragments, and anything else you might want to put into the map device. So, the default is 8% increased quantity of items found in this area. This will not start at 8%, this will start at 1%, and it will level up as you explore more and more of the Atlas. Getting this to 8% is something that is one of those tiny little buffs that actually adds a lot to your loot progression throughout the league. It's not very noticeable each time it goes up, but trust me, over hundreds and hundreds and thousands of maps, this will add a lot of value to you. When you choose to use a Zana mod, so pay for a Zana mod, not only are you paying the appropriate currency cost, but you're also incurring an opportunity cost by not using this increased quantity of items found in the area. So that's going to be something you're going to want to keep in mind. Additionally, you will unlock each of these tiers of Zana mods, as well as leveling up this 8% bonus by exploring more of the maps on the Atlas. I used to believe that this was by completing their Atlas bonus objective. It's since been brought to my attention that that was wrong, and that the way that you actually get credit for them is by simply killing the map boss. So that means you're going to need to run a diverse array of maps to unlock all of these, and Legion likely unlocks at about 135 or 140 maps completed, which is most of the Atlas but not all of it, and is very accessible even if you're in solo self-found, where some of the unique maps, just won't drop for you. Like sometimes you just will not be able to get Death and Taxes to drop. Even though it's not a rare map, it just won't drop for you. You won't need to worry about that in terms of getting Legion unlocked. So what do all of these do? Firstly, Fortune Favours the Brave is a lucky dip from the remaining options. I don't generally recommend using Fortune Favours the Brave. Even though the cost of Fortune Favours the Brave, 3 Chaos Orbs, is less than the average cost of the remaining options. So these add up to 7, 11, 15, 20, 26 Chaos between 7, so they add up to just under 4, they average just under 4 Chaos between them. However, you're going to want to select a Zana mod, or select to use none, based upon it synergizing with the mods that are already on the map. So to give you a bit of an example, if you have a map that inherently has the Beyond affix on it, then something that synergizes really strongly with Beyond and will put a lot of Beyond monsters onto your map is Harbinger. And so for that reason, you would be inclined to pay full price for Harbinger if it's available on a Beyond map, rather than taking this lucky dip and maybe getting something that's a good mod like Nemesis, but one that you're not prepared for, one that your map doesn't synergize with. So for that reason, my recommendation is don't use Fortune Favours the Brave in general mapping. There may be a challenge to use it a certain number of times. I know that one of the recent leagues had a challenge to use this mod 30 times. And essentially what that was just a sink of Chaos Orbs across the economy. Those are quite useful, even if you're not into trading particularly much yourself. It ensures that the Chaos Orbs that you loot are in demand for other players. So it's certainly something that, even if you'd have no intention of chasing challenges yourself, will improve your gameplay in some way. However, of course, it's there if you want to chase challenges. Anarchy adds 2 Rogue Exiles onto a map, or at least it's added 2 in the past. I can't guarantee that it's still exactly 2. And with this, there's not much use to adding Rogue Exiles onto a map in general. There may be a challenge that incentivizes you to add Rogue Exiles, but broadly speaking, they have a low impact, they don't add much loot, and they don't add much sort of excitement to a map either. They won't accelerate your clearing of the map, and they don't drop unique loot. So for that reason, when I say unique, they do drop unique items sometimes, but they don't drop any items that are particularly precious that are only available through use of the Anarchy mod. For that reason, I don't really recommend ever using the Anarchy mod on the Zana mod table. You might just use it once just to mess around with it, but or by all means use it if you find it fun. The cost is really low, but broadly speaking, I think you're better off just keeping your 6, 7, 8% increased item quantity that you get by default from not using a Zana mod. Next up we have Breach. So breaches are those little hands in the ground that open a portal to another world. Although the portal is not a single location, it expands in all directions around you, and monsters that are within the portal area start swarming at you from all directions. Breach adds a considerable number of monsters to maps, not as many as it used to back when it used to be the unquestioned best Zana mod a couple of years ago. It has been nerfed since, but it still is reasonably good value at 2 Chaos Orbs. I'd keep this in mind if you just want to add lots of monsters onto a map, especially if it's a map that has chase divination cards. Breach is worth considering. Ambush is next. Ambush adds strongboxes, and strongboxes are lots of fun. They're not all that fun. They're not all that exciting on their own. They don't do very much, but there are some ridiculous synergies in conjunction with Sextant mods. And that's the reason that the Ambush mod is on the list. There is a Sextant mod, or at least there has been in previous leagues, and I've seen nothing indicating it's being nerfed, that causes all monsters that are inside strongboxes to have 500% increased item quantity. So that means if you're running an 8 mod map that has 123% increased quantity on the map, then instead of having 223% of baseline loot, they go up to 723% of baseline loot. That's more than triple, and so that's a staggering boost to the amount of loot that you'll acquire from those monsters. There are plenty of ways to force more strongboxes onto a map, and Ambush is the Ambush mod will add some number of them, some fixed number. In the past, it's been 2, 3, or 4 at various times. Additionally, if you've got that specific Sextant mod rolled, the one that causes your strongbox monsters to have more loot, you will want to not just use Ambush to add to add more strongboxes. You want to go out of your way to stack other sources of additional strongboxes as well. So one of the best of these is a Gilded Ambush Scarab, which from memory adds 5. They're available from the Betrayal system as well as from other sources. And additionally, on top of Scarabs, you'll also probably want to be using this in conjunction with loot multiplier Scarabs, such as Divination card Scarabs. So Gilded Divination Scarabs, or maybe polished ones if the map that you're in doesn't have quite as good a set of Divination cards. That's the main use case for the Ambush mod, and is something that's really important to keep in mind for when you get that Sextant. Now, that Sextant mod has been made rarer than it used to be. Back, say, a year ago, it was one of the more common of the powerful Sextant rolls. Now, it's a pretty rare Sextant roll, but it is still available. Next up, we have Nemesis, and before getting into Nemesis, I need to explain the concept of time-worn items. Throughout Path of Exile's history, each new league has generally had a couple of league-exclusive unique items. And for Nemesis, one of those league-exclusive unique items was a humble little belt named Headhunter. Headhunter was not thought of as particularly great at the time. In fact, it was available for the princely sum of 15 Chaos Orbs in the Nemesis League, apparently. However, since then, people have realised that Headhunter is, without question, the best belt in the game for most purpose characters. It's not the best one for fighting bosses, but for any character that's aimed at, that has been built around being as powerful as possible when fighting large numbers of monsters, Headhunter is the best belt for them. The reason for this is that Headhunter is a belt with the mod, when you kill a rare monster, you gain its mods for 20 seconds. And those mods, the mods that rare monsters have, are insanely powerful. There is a haste aura that they have, permanent haste, that is far superior to a player's Val haste, the temporary aura that we can cast, with a large charge up of Val souls. There is a mod, nearby allies deal increased physical damage, which just adds massive amounts of damage. So all of these effects are things you can steal from monsters by killing rare monsters. Headhunter is a ridiculously rare item, and the only ways that you can get it through as a drop. There's a couple of specific things in the game that can drop these Time-Worn uniques, these ones that were originally intended as exclusive to a particular past league. Most Headhunters in the game, in my experience, come from divination cards. So the Doctor is one of the most expensive divination cards in the game, and also one of the most sought after. But a number of them will drop from in zones where the Nemesis mod is active. This needs to be Zana's Nemesis mod. It can't be just a map that has the similar mod in the normal rare mods. In the normal mod pool for maps. So there is a mod for maps that says rare monsters have a Nemesis mod, and there are 20 to 30% more rare monsters. That won't count. The Zana Nemesis, the one that you pay 4 Chaos for, is a pretty similar effect, but it also turns on the chance to get a Headhunter in that zone. Now, we'll say that getting a Headhunter to drop in a Nemesis map is still extremely rare. It's still at least as rare as Chevron's Wrappings. So, in my time playing Path of Exile, I think I've had Chevron's Wrappings drop 4 or 5 or 6 times, maybe. So if I had been spending 4 Chaos Orbs on every single map I've done, I might have got 4 or 5 Headhunters that way. So it's not a significant chance, but it's also not zero. The key reason, though, that Nemesis is significant is that in a map that has been created with the Nemesis mod from Zana's map device activated on it, it opens up a couple of other ways to get Headhunter. The first one is to use a Chance Orb on a leather belt. This is a way that you can get Worm's Molt, or, if you're extremely lucky, get a Headhunter. Additionally, you can use an Ancient Orb on a unique belt. This can only be done inside a map that has been opened with the map device selecting Nemesis on it. And then when you do this, you will have a chance to Ancient Orb a belt into Headhunter. There's not been any truly massive sample sizes done on what your sort of odds are of generating a Headhunter with an Ancient Orb this way, but it's believed to be somewhere in the vicinity of 1 in 400. I actually think it's rarer than that, but that should give you some sort of ballpark estimate as to how much to value Ancient Orbs this league. So, the purpose of Nemesis as a Zana mod is not because it adds more monsters to the map. It is not because it does anything particularly to make the map more exciting to run. It is just simply because it gives you a chance to have Headhunter drop, and gives you a chance. It turns on the ability to generate a Headhunter with a Chance Orb or with an Ancient Orb. That's it. The last thing that's significant with Nemesis being available is that Space Hunters are a thing again. Space Hunter is a Headhunter that is Shaper influenced. It is not possible to create in the game normally. However, with the Zana Nemesis mod, you can create one by using a Chance Orb on a leather belt that is Shaper influenced, and eventually getting lucky. Very, very, very lucky, because most of your Shaper belts will end up being wasted as Worm's Molts or other undesirable Shaper versions of leather belts. Part of this is a vanity project for a lot of people. A lot of the wealthier players in the game will just simply do this because they can, but there is a functional reason to want a Space Hunter over a normal Headhunter as well, and that is synergy with the unique chest, the Eternity Shroud, which drops from Uber Elder. So, that's Nemesis. Nemesis has a huge impact on the game. Just the fact that this is available will mean that there will be more Headhunters in circulation. It will mean that Ancient Orbs will be in huge demand. There'll be an insatiable demand for Ancient Orbs this league. There will be an insatiable demand for Chance Orbs and for Scouring Orbs in order to try to chance a Headhunter. And there will be the possibility for a small number of people to get lucky and to create a Space Hunter. Next up we have Harbinger. Harbinger is one that is a mod that is more about adding monsters onto your map. It has two effects. The first one is that it causes Harbingers to spawn on the map. Harbingers are encounters where there'll be an invulnerable monster that has only very weak attacks, but that will sacrifice its life force to cause large packs of monsters to spawn. These monsters will then all attack you, and they're pretty good. They're reasonably good encounters. They're somewhat slow-paced, which can give you a bit of a breather while you're running a hectic map. However, in addition to the Harbingers generating a lot of monsters, which they do, they will also drop specific currency shards when you kill them. With extreme luck, you can get a Mirror Shard. With a bit of luck, because I've never seen a Mirror Shard drop, but they can. More likely, much more likely, is an Exalted Shard, and you will find that if you run the Harbinger mod frequently, you will get a lot of Exalted Orbs this way. Of course, you'll be burning Chaos Orbs to do them, and in my experience, generally the Exalted Shards that you get will pay for your cost to run the Harbinger mod over time. However, you will also get the following currency shards. You'll get Ancient Shards, 20 of those combined to make an Ancient Orb, and we were talking about those in Nemesis earlier. Ancient Orbs have been worth almost nothing throughout the whole Delirium League, but that's going to be very different with Zana Nemesis available. So Ancient Orbs will actually be somewhat of a jackpot pull with Harbinger, because I'm expecting that Ancient Orbs might wind up in the 40 to 60 Chaos range. Additionally, as well as Ancient Shards, you'll also get Harbinger Shards, which combine to form Harbinger Orbs. Harbinger Orbs upgrade a map by a tier and randomize the base that it's on, and also have a 20% chance to upgrade the map into the unique map named the Beachhead. The Beachhead's particularly it's a good map to have a bunch of. They're a really safe way to get XP, and there will be a new version of the Beachhead added in the Harvest League. We don't have full details on how you get that yet, but Harbinger Orbs may play a role in that. So the Harbinger mod is the one that I would suggest for most players will be your default option. That means that when you are steadily into farming high tier maps, tier 14, 15, 16, and you feel like you're well settled into endgame, you've got a powerful character, you may want to consider dropping 4 Chaos on every single map that you run in order to juice up your map with the Harbinger spawns. There's additional packs of monsters, they will drop relevant loot. The Exalted Shards alone will possibly completely make up for the cost you're paying. Even if they don't, the Ancient Orbs that you collect will much more than make up for it. Next up we have Metamorph. So Metamorph was a very recent league. It's the most recent of these mods, and it will cause the monsters throughout the zone. Some of them will have body parts, including the map boss. The map boss will have one part of this. And when you've harvested enough body parts, you'll need a complete set. There's 5 different types to collect. Once you've got a complete set, you can then assemble a Frankenstein's monster and fight it. Generally speaking, the Frankenstein's monster will be harder than the map boss. So if you're struggling with map bosses, don't even consider Metamorph as an option. These will then drop some special loot, and also you will have a chance to harvest an organ from this boss that you've killed. Depending on exactly how you build it, you'll have a chance to harvest an organ from that, and then get a set of 5 of them, and then go and fight it again for a double dip on loot. Metamorph's pretty juicy in the amount of loot that it puts out. It's not as ridiculous as Delirium was in terms of just vomiting out incredible amounts of loot, but it does add quite a lot to the map. And as a result, I think that the 5 Chaos price on it is actually a pretty reasonable price to pay. You'll often find that you will get 5 Chaos worth of Catalyst, but you'll also get 5 Chaos worth of little currency off killing this boss monster. So Metamorph is a pretty good choice. However, I think Harbinger probably pips it out for most cases. Lastly, we have Legion, which is the final unlock that you'll get. Legion, we'll put one of those Legion monoliths on the map. These have been proven in the past to be very, very, very lucrative. They, generally speaking, aren't so great until about tier 14 maps. And because Legion's the last unlock, I'm assuming that you're going to be solidly in tier 14 by the time that you unlock it. At that point, though, you will then have yourself something to spend a lot of chaos on in order to receive quite considerable boost to the number of monsters on the map, some of which will drop special rewards. Most notably, with Legion, I would think of this as being like getting a lowest tier, so a Rusted Legion Scarab for free. So 6 Chaos, if Rusted Legion Scarabs cost less than 6 Chaos, don't use this Zana mod, instead just stick one of those Scarabs in. But if you're in solo self-found and that's not an option, or if you're playing in a trade league and those Rusted Scarabs end up more than 6 Chaos, then Legion will definitely pay for itself back over time. Additionally, Metamorph has a Scarab and Harbinger has a Scarab as well. One thing I want to point out with Harbinger is that having more Harbingers stacks, and so you can use the Harbinger Zana map mod in conjunction with Harbinger Scarabs. There's no particular synergy there, but there is a synergy with the Sextant that adds a Harbinger. Lots of different sources of Harbingers that you can get on a map. The Sextant causes each Harbinger that you defeat in a map, it adds 1 Harbinger into the boss's rune. And in addition, it causes every map boss and also every Harbinger in the zone to drop additional currency shards. This is lucrative, and what I suggest you do, if you get that Sextant roll, you want to use it on a 3 boss map. Racecourse is a good option. Alternately, you could use it on, I think it's Courtyard, Val Temple if you're feeling really strong, and then go and fight the bosses of that map with a Harbinger, selected from the Zana mods, and also using a Harbinger Scarab in conjunction with that Sextant mod. That will flood the map with Harbingers, and you will get so many currency shards from it. Most of the currency shards you get will be worthless. They'll be alteration shards, they'll be alchemy shards, things that are barely worth picking up. But that's only most of them. The ones that matter will be your Exalted Shards, they will be your Ancient Shards and the like. They will really add up. So that's one of the strategic implications of Harbinger being an option. Metamorph doesn't stack with the Scarab. So there's no real benefit to using a Metamorph Scarab in conjunction with the Metamorph Zana mod. In fact, you may not even be able to do so. I haven't tried. Likewise, Legion will stack with Legion Scarabs, and if you have a Gilded Legion Scarab or the new teased version, the Jeweled Legion Scarab, which I haven't seen in game yet, they're not available currently, but they're believed to be basically a supercharged version of a Gilded Scarab. Adding an additional Legion monolith by using the Legion Zana mod in conjunction with a Legion Scarab will be worth your while, because some of the top Legion Scarabs also affect all monoliths in the zone, not just the ones that are added by the Scarab. Anyway, that's all I've got on the Zana mods, except to notice one that is very conspicuous by its absence. So Beyond is not present. Beyond is one of those interesting Zana mods that is absolutely and utterly explosive in the way that it floods a map. When a map is already busy, when it already has a lot of monsters on it, Beyond adds a staggering amount more. It's not available, and that's going to mean that Headhunter actually has less utility. It's more available because of Nemesis, but it has a bit less utility than it's had in some of the past leagues. That's because with Zana's Beyond maps, you can flood a map with additional rare monsters. that spawn when you kill a lot of enemies close to each other. You'll then pretty much instantly kill those rare monsters because your character's powerful, it's got all sorts of Headhunter buffs. And then this will turbocharge your progress through the entire map. The Beyond content will also cause lots of additional monsters to spawn, and you'll kill those in no time as well. So that's missing. That is going to impact the best ways to level a character to 100. If your goal is to hit level 100 on a character in this league, and be warned, that is not for the faint of heart. I still have never hit level 100 on a character. It's a massive grind. You're probably not going to want to do the majority of the heavy lifting through maps. You're probably going to want to do most of it through some of the various content that is essentially XP as an item. Chayula's Pure Breachstones being one of the premium examples, or a 5-way Legion fight. Various content like that provides a very safe and massive burst of XP that you can gain whilst essentially remaining pretty much unkillable. Anyways, that's all I've got for the moment. If you've got any comments or questions, fire away below. And also do have a look at this little thing down the bottom. What happens when you put the Path of Exile Harvest patch notes through an algorithm if you want to laugh? It's nothing serious. It's just that Grinding Your Games decided to have a little bit of a laugh at our expense by basically gibberishifying the patch notes that they've already they've partially finished working on. So have a look at that if you want to laugh. But that's all I've got at the moment, and I hope you have a good one.